Hello dear students of class 9th, welcome to Polity class. I hope all of you are fit and healthy. Students, in this video, I shall start with the second chapter from your Polity book, that is Constitutional Design. So students, in this video, I shall start with Constitutional Design. See, in the last chapter, I explained you about democracy. And let me tell you that this chapter as well as your last chapter, that your previous chapter, they are connected, they are linked with each other. Now, what do you understand by democracy? I hope everybody remembers. Democracy is a form of government in which the leaders or the rulers are elected by the people. And let me tell you that constitution is one important pillar of democracy. If democracy will be there, then constitution is also very important. Without a constitution, democracy is incomplete. Now, what do you understand by constitutional design, or we will just break the words. First word is constitutional and the second word is design. Now, what is the meaning of constitution? Students, let me tell you that constitution is the supreme law of a country. Constitution is a set of rules or the basic laws or rules of a country. There has to be laws, there has to be rules. If rules or laws will not be there, then everything will be in a haphazard manner. Things will not go smooth, things will not function properly as per order. So, in order to keep everything in order, in order to keep everything smooth and functioning, there is a need of constitution. And in this chapter, I shall explain you that how constitution, cut this line. And in this chapter, I shall explain you that how a constitution is designed, how a constitution is made, what is the significance of a constitution, what is the importance of constitution. If constitution will not be there, what will happen to the country? Is it important? How important constitution is for a democratic country? This I am going to explain you in this chapter. So students, as I told you that constitution is an important pillar of democracy. Students, a democratic government rules within the limits set by constitutional law and citizens' right. So constitution is an important feature in a democracy. If constitution will not be there, then things will not go smooth, things will not be in order. Let me explain you about constitution with the help of or by connecting to the first chapter. I explained you about Parvez Musharraf. He was not elected by the people, yet he declared himself as the President of Pakistan. Now, he was not elected and he declared himself, he declared himself as the President of Pakistan, and after declaring himself as the President of Pakistan, he amended the constitution. That means democracy was not there, because in a democracy the leaders take decisions, but there democracy was not there, only they were pretending to be democratic, but they were not in reality democratic, and as a result of which constitution was not there, and even if constitution was there, it was amended by him several times as per his will, as per his need. So, if a constitution is continuously changed by a leader, about the leader of the country, then things will not go smooth. So, in order to for a smooth functioning, constitution is very much important. It plays a vital role in a democratic country. This is an important feature of democracy. That means the existence of constitution is an important feature in a democracy. And let me tell you students, if constitution will be there, then only the government will act accordingly. The government will respect, it will give value to the citizens, it will give rights to the citizens and will protect the citizens of the country. See, if constitution will not be there, if rules will not be there, then the government will do anything, whatever the government wants as per its desire. So, in order to have a control, in order to make things happen in proper order, in proper sequence, the existence of a constitution is important. Then only the government will do things in order, then only the government will act accordingly, in accordance with the constitution, in accordance to the constitution. So, this is the importance, this is the need of constitution. It plays a very important role. So, constitution is a very important aspect, or you can say dimension of democracy, or in a democracy. So, I hope the introduction part is clear to everybody. Now, students, let me tell you that what all we are going to study, or what all I shall explain you in this chapter. So, students, as you can see that these all topics we are going to study in this chapter. So, the first topic is democratic constitution in South Africa. Yes, in this chapter we are going to study about the democratic constitution, that how the constitution of South Africa was made, in which I will explain you about the struggle against apartheid and then towards a new constitution. This I am going to explain you. Then further I will explain you that why do we need a constitution, that means what is the requirement of constitution, what is the need of constitution. It is not only a set of rules, but it is a complete system. A constitution is a complete system in itself. So, this is very important, that means the need of a constitution. Then the next topic is making of the Indian constitution, that how and why Indian constitution is made, in which I will explain you about the path to constitution, then the constitution, then the constituent assembly, and then about the leaders of constituent assembly. In this I will explain you these points, and then I will explain you about the guiding values of Indian constitution, in which I will deal with the dream and the promise. Secondly, the philosophy of the constitution, that is preamble, and the third one is institutional design, in which I will explain you about the organs of government. So, these are the topics that I am going to explain you in this chapter in detail. So, students, with full energy and enthusiasm, let us start with the first topic of this chapter, that is democratic constitution in South Africa. Now, students, you must be thinking that why I am going to explain you about, or why I am explaining about, cut this line. Now, students, you must be thinking that why I am explaining you about South Africa, or what is the need to study about South Africa. Why not we are directly studying about the Indian constitution? Why we are studying about the constitution of South Africa? Then let me tell you that the constitution of South Africa is a recent example of a democratic constitution, as it was approved on 4th December 1996. And we can easily compare the constitution of South Africa with our constitution, with the framing of our Indian constitution, which was framed in 1949. So, since it is a recent example, we are studying about it in order to understand the significance of constitution. That is why we are studying this topic. So, before this, let me explain you the background of South Africa. Let me tell you the background of South Africa. What was the situation in South Africa? Now, students, before I tell you anything about South Africa, let me tell you about this personality, that is Nelson Mandela. He is a very famous personality. Let me tell you that Nelson Mandela is a black, and he was imprisoned. Yes, he was imprisoned in 1964 for treason. Now what is treason? Treason means the crime of betraying one's country. Now we will see that in reality did he betray his country or not, or he was just imprisoned by the whites. Students, if I talk about the freedom struggle of South Africa, then let me tell you that during that time South Africa was dominated by the white minorities. The whites were in minority and the blacks were in majority, but still, in spite being in minority, the whites dominated the black people. Why they dominated the black people? Because of their skin color. There was racial discrimination in South Africa. So the black people, they were suppressed by the whites. And you know why Nelson Mandela was imprisoned? He was imprisoned for opposing the apartheid regime. Now what is this apartheid regime? This is an important term. Apartheid means racial discrimination. The discrimination on the basis of skin color. Since the blacks, their skin color was black, so on the basis of skin color, they were suppressed, they were dominated, they were discriminated from the whites. And in South Africa, racial discrimination, that means apartheid was there. And in order to oppose this racial discrimination, Nelson Mandela was imprisoned, and you know, he spent his next 28 years in South Africa's most dreadful prison, and the name of that prison is Robben Island. This is one of the most dreadful prison in South Africa, and as he was opposing the apartheid regime, he was imprisoned by the whites minority who were dominating, who were suppressing the blacks. Now let me tell you about the struggle against apartheid. See, the blacks, because of their skin color, they were considered inferior. They were not given the rights that were enjoyed by the whites. So basically, apartheid is a system of racial discrimination promoted by the white government. The system of apartheid, and you know, the system of apartheid divided the people and labeled them on the basis of skin color. They were considered inferior, they were considered low, they were not allowed to do several activities that the white people enjoyed. The freedom of blacks was lost. They did not, or they could not enjoy freedom. They were suppressed. They were neglected in the society, they were neglected in the country because of this racial discrimination. So students, as a result of racial discrimination, as a result of apartheid, the white rulers, they treated all the non-whites as inferior. The non-whites did not have the voting rights. That means political equality was also not there that time when whites were dominating the blacks, and the apartheid system was particularly oppressive for the blacks. The system was only meant, or it was oppressive for the blacks. Now how this apartheid system was particularly oppressive for the blacks? See, the blacks, they were not given several rights, they were not given several opportunities, they were not treated equal. You know, they were forbidden from living in white areas, means they could not enter white areas, the places, the areas where whites lived. They were, the blacks were not permitted to step into that area even. Then they could work in white areas only if they had a permit. Now since the whites were ruling, so they wanted men to work in their field and do their, and to serve them, they wanted to treat them as servants. The whites actually treated, cut that line, the white treated the, you know, the whites treated the blacks as their servants. So they wanted somebody to work in their fields. So in order to work for the whites, the blacks needed permit. This much discrimination was there in South Africa. As the blacks were oppressed, the blacks were suppressed by the whites. Also students, trains, buses, taxis, hotels, schools, college, cinema halls, theatres, benches, public toilets, etc. They were all separate of whites and blacks, and means all the public facilities were separate, and this is called as the policy of segregation. That means the policy of separation. The blacks were not allowed to use the public means of transportation, they were not allowed to enter into parks, they were not allowed to go to churches, means wherever the whites went, the blacks were not allowed to enter that area. This level of racial discrimination was there in South Africa. And you know students, the blacks, they could not even visit the churches where the whites worshipped. The blacks could not form associations or protests against the terrible treatment. See, the protests are the, cut that line. See students, protests are part of a democratic government if the protest is done in a peaceful manner. But in South Africa, the blacks were not even allowed to protest against that terrible treatment. They were treated terribly, but they could not oppose, they could not form associations, they could not form groups, they could not protest. So this level of discrimination was done in South Africa for the black people. And you know, there was tensed relation between the whites and the blacks, and there was strict segregation, there was strict separation between the whites and the blacks. So this was the situation of black people in South Africa. And I hope students still here points are clear to everybody. In the next video, I shall explain you that how this system of racial discrimination, that means apartheid, ended with the role of African National Congress, that means ANC. I shall explain you that how with the help of African National Congress, the apartheid regime got ended. Till then, thank you so much and stay safe.